Hey, how's it going, everybody? If you're coming to this video, I'm assuming that you might be feeling stressed or anxious. So before we start, let's just do like a 10 or 15-second pause with a nice deep breath. So I applied to jobs for about 8 months. I was a full-time student who studies computer science. So I started about the beginning of my senior year, or like right before it started in the summer. And what I remember most is just that I was constantly kind of pushing away the people around me. I was projecting a lot of emotions onto the people around me. I wasn't feeling good about myself because when you're applying to jobs, you're constantly seeing yourself, comparing yourself to other people around you or seeing people in these success stories. And it can be really hard to do. And that's why I wanted to make this video, because it's something that was really prevalent in my life when I was applying to jobs. I was reading a book, I think it's by Strauss, and he was describing something about the ego and shame. And I kind of put it into a picture about a year ago, and I pulled it up on my phone. I'll show it to you here. Essentially, we have what he calls is this shame core, which might be feelings about, not feeling worthy or not feeling good about yourself, or comparing yourself to too many people and just not feeling like you're good enough. And you have this ego that kind of protects that hides that away. And your ego does that by pushing out kind of all these emotions like anger and sadness and depression, all at kind of other people and people around you, maybe even at yourself, just to protect yourself from all this shame that you might feel during this process, if you actually feel any at all. And that's kind of the problem, because you don't want to push these emotions out on people like, boyfriend, girlfriend, family members, friends, housemates, roommates, whatever it might be. And I know how it feels during this process. It's like you can feel very robotic, very purposelessness, especially if you're just filling out those boxes for 2-3 hours time and time again. And honestly, like, we're not entitled to a job, so it shouldn't be so easy, of course. But that's why I make this video, because you're gonna feel these emotions no matter what. You have to go through this pain if you want to see yourself somewhere at a nice job in the end. So right before I get into some tips, you're gonna be okay. Don't give up. You're gonna be okay. It might not pan out exactly how you want, but it's gonna pan out, and in 5-10 years, this step is all gonna make sense. So let's get started with any advice that I collected over the months that I was applying. First is that stop comparing yourself to everybody else. And to do this, I would say just get off social media. The last thing you want to do is apply to jobs for 3 hours and then hop up on your phone scrolling through a feed of everybody in their picture perfect life. So I would just stay off the apps, honestly. Delete your account temporarily if you want to. Don't read any success stories of the 0 to Google employee type of deal. Like, it's just not healthy. It doesn't actually benefit you in any way to read all these success stories while you're applying to jobs, even though it feels like the right thing to do sometimes. Second is, don't multitask. Like I said before, you don't want to project your emotions onto the people around you. So set yourself up in an environment where you're not going to be surrounded by too many people. Like, don't have your friends in the room. Don't have your parents, in the bedroom next door. Don't have your spouse or significant other, next to you the whole time. Because if you're probably going to be projecting some anger or whatever, not at them, but just stuff you're feeling is going to come up out of you. So it's best to just lock yourself away in a Starbucks or Dunkin' or a coffee shop, lock yourself away in your bedroom, whatever it has to be, but just try not to be surrounded by too many people. Set your own boundaries and set boundaries with people who you're with. Third, and probably the biggest thing for me, is self-affirmation and mindfulness. You might have practiced some of these things before. If you haven't, some apps that I might recommend would be, and this is not sponsored anyway, I actually use these for like the entire course of job hunting. Some good apps are Headspace. There's a free tier with it. You can pay for it if you want. There's a big student discount, so I'll leave the link to that.
Familiarizing yourself with that space, and then when you're ready, in your own time, just gently opening the eyes again.
That's for mindfulness. And then there's an app called Jor, I think is how you pronounce it. And it's essentially guided journaling. I've been doing a lot of journaling on my own, but to have kind of a guided journaling where there's a more self-affirmation aspect, because I don't type when I journal, oh, I'm so strong, or it's usually not so positive light that I journal in. So it's nice to have a guided journal that can kind of help you be a little bit more positive in kind of a negative time. Another thing for people close to you, I would just assure them that this is going to be temporary. I know I touch on this topic a lot about the people around you, but that's what was closest to me and most important to me the time that I was applying. So assure the people around you that this is temporary. It might take 6 months, it might take a year, but however I'm acting right now, I'll try my best to not project it onto you, and I promise that all this busyness, whatever it might be, is temporary. Similar to that, see people close to you as useful to your emotional well-being rather than hindering your ability to apply to jobs, hindering your ability to be successful, because at the end of the day, you're applying to jobs or working your career is not your only role in life. And when you apply to jobs, it kind of feels like that's the most important thing, because like you have to constantly show your best career self online. It's like you have to realize that that's not your only role in life, and see people around you as useful, not hindering. Another good thing is to have a non-tech hobby, especially for people who do anything computer related. It's like if you're on your computer all day applying to jobs, or maybe working your full-time job as well on your computer, the last thing you want to do when you're done is hop back on your computer for entertainment. I would say have a non-tech hobby that's expressive, like dancing, singing, playing an instrument, going hiking, painting, just something that's not going to bring you back to your computer after you've been on it all day. And honestly, just use some of that time reconnecting with the people who you might have pushed away. Another really important thing that came up for me was to not put my health in the passenger seat. And I did this the most because I'm already really skinny. So like the last thing I want to do is not eat a meal or skip a meal. So for me, I really tried to set up an environment, and I failed at this a little bit, but try to set up an environment where, you know, if it usually takes me like an hour to go out to eat or an hour to cook food, find ways around that. I bought a shake that was like a meal replacement, but still like 500 calories, and it was healthy. And I would drink that as like my mid-meal 2:30. So things like that really help you kind of set yourself up to be more healthy, and make sure you get sleep at night. Because if you don't do these things, if you don't stay healthy, once again, back to the people around you, you're going to get a lot of feelings and you're going to project them onto other people. And lastly, if you feel like this is just all a lot, like everything you're doing right now, I would say consider therapy. I did it my second semester of school, so it was like the latter 4 months of applying to jobs. I obviously didn't just go in there and talk about jobs, but it was really helpful because instead of expressing all these kind of irrational thoughts onto the people around me, I expressed them to an unbiased therapist. So I think that's really helpful. You don't have to do it, but if you have the resources and you have the time, I think therapy can really be a great way to help with that kind of self-affirmation, mindfulness, and also just understand that where any shame might be coming from about comparing yourself to other people, or whatever your shame might be or whatever your guilt might be, just kind of working that out with an unbiased person is just so helpful. And if you go to school right now, you probably have a bunch of resources on campus as well. So that's really everything for me. I know this time is just really hard probably for you right now, but it is temporary. You are going to get through it. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope this could help a little bit. Let me know what you're struggling with. Let me know if you need help with anything. And I will see you in the next video.